There we go. Thank you, James. And does not look like I have the opportunity to do Facebook Live. So we will just roll with it. And hopefully, folks who can't join us today, they will be able to view the recording on YouTube afterwards. And that's the same for anybody who has to jump off. So I am Amy Loudermilk, the programs manager for Arts Build. Thank you all for joining us today. We've got Colline Miller here with us to take us through some social media. I will say that a lot of times in these Zooms, folks are awfully quiet. So today, hopefully we've got some vocal folks with us because we want to talk to you today. I know Colline is going to cover some things, but we all want to hear from you, and we can all learn from each other as well in terms of the social media questions that you have in terms of marketing and monetization. So that's what we're here for. Artsville has quite a bit going on right now. We are in the midst of gathering nominations for the Ruth Holmberg Arts Leadership Award. So please go to our website, artsbuild.com, and take a look at our leadership and our education opportunities. We are also still recruiting for our upcoming Tech Goes Home for the Arts cohort. We'll be meeting March 28th through April 1st. So we've still got some spaces left there and would love for you guys to fill them up. One of our instructors is on the Zoom right now, Miss Marsha Mills. So this will be her first time as an instructor for the program. She's a fabulous lady who we learned a lot from as a student of Tech Goes Home the last time we held the program. So she's got a lot to offer. And make sure that you are tuned in to our ArtsWire weekly publication that comes to your email. You can sign up for that through our website as well. If you just go to artsbuild.com, you'll see a little blue box pop up, and that prompts you to enter your email address. That's not for us to send you spam mail. That is for us to send you information through ArtsWire in terms of job openings in the arts and culture sector, any type of events that are going on, opportunities to obtain grants and things like that. So make sure that you're tuned in that way. So I will go ahead and hand this over to Miss Colline. And remember, participants, we want to hear from you today. So go ahead and put your brave face on so that we can hear from you. And we'd love to hear what your questions are. So Colline, I'll go ahead and hand it over to you.
All righty. Hello, everyone. Again, Colline Miller, and I've been doing this shared services workshop since I think it was December 2020 is the first one that I did. We've talked a lot about a lot of things. Every month in 2021 is recorded and on the YouTube page. So they're definitely worthwhile to sit and listen to. I find them wildly entertaining. Sorry for the cat in the background if you can hear her. Oh my Lord. So today I was hoping to go through some of the responses to a survey that Amy kindly added onto the newsletter under this shared services workshop as it was being announced in your email inboxes. And we got a few responses, but yeah, since it's a small group today, if anyone does have very specific questions, I'd be happy to try to answer them if you want to come off mute or put a stack in the chat or put your question in the chat. But the first thing I really wanted to go through that Amy had asked was Google advertising. We have talked at length. There's a whole webinar, and I'm happy to repeat it ever if it's a topic of interest about social media advertising. And so that exists, but we haven't really dove into Google advertising. It's kind of daunting because it's Google, but I thought it was worthwhile to talk through it a little bit at the top, and maybe folks will find it interesting and maybe not so scary. So the first thing to do is you got to claim your Your business listing if you want to do any Google advertising. I'm going to come off of my presentation here in a minute, and you'll hopefully stick with me if my internet has a moment of lagging. But yeah, so you first should claim your Google My Business listing, add some photos. When people review, reply to those reviews. There's still that COVID-19 update that exists that allows you to like update hours and put some, if you require masks, etc. But I'm going to come off this because I think it's kind of important to walk through it. So first, to claim your Google My Business listing, I've got this link up that I'm going to put in the chat, and then we'll talk through what that means. So, you know, if I'm someone who is coming into Chattanooga, and sorry for my Google searches, and I want to know music venues in Chattanooga, Tennessee. The first thing that pops up, you know, that's one of the main reasons, first of all, why anyone goes to Google is to find where they want to eat, where they want to go, what activities are happening. I'll do a few other searches to show you, but if you don't have these, I think everyone on this call will know that these are not the only music venues in Chattanooga. There's some key ones that are in these event places down here, like the Tivoli and the Memorial and Songbirds. And so the fact that they're not, those ones that we know that are huge and have constant events aren't popping up here tells me that they could do a little bit of work on their Google My Business listing. Because they're so far down, it's not like it's by alphabetical order or anything like that. But it tells me that they could do a little bit of work. It also tells me when you do that they are not advertising on Google right now, which is like fine. But in order to be at the top of the algorithm, even when there's no one advertising, requires a few things. It requires your website to be up to date. This is why your website matters, because Google is constantly, you know, using these key terms like music venues or Chattanooga, Tennessee, or lunch, Chattanooga, Tennessee, or arts venue, Chattanooga, Tennessee. And it's constantly searching the metadata of the different websites that are on Google or that can be accessed by Google, which is everything. And making sure that the back end of your website looks good, is updated. It has the screen optimization, and that means, you know, that it can be viewed on a giant screen like my second desktop over here. It can be viewed on a tiny laptop. It can be viewed on a small cell phone, and it doesn't look funny. You've spent the time to make sure that it looks good on every single screen. That's important. Google also will prioritize your website and your information if your links work on your website, if you have images that are working, and if your content is up to date. Because like I said, Google looks at the metadata of your website, and that will tell them like the last time that you've put anything new on your website. And if that year or date is 2020, you're going to go down low on their algorithm for when people search. One thing I wanted to mention, and I don't know if many people know this, I know this is off topic, but it comes up really easily and comes up a lot in my life. Sometimes when you search for things on Google, you'll know this top part right here is an ad, and your organization or your business can buy this real estate, and you don't pay for you don't pay to advertise unless someone clicks on this. And so that's something that I do in my everyday life. Is I know that this is an ad, and I know that it pays for it makes them pay for every time I click, so I always go to the second one. But like if we look up arts organizations in Chattanooga, Tennessee, Arts Build clearly is on the top of the list, which is really wonderful. Congratulations. That's amazing, like, thing to have. I don't know if you're paying for advertising or not. I don't think you are. But the fact that you're right here at the top of this Google Maps list, it means you've claimed your Google listing. Someone has. And the fact that you're in the top search right here underneath without an advertisement next to it or paying for advertising means that you are constantly updating the content of your website. I know that that is true, but if you remember when we typed in music venues, there's something that Google doesn't love, because the first thing is Visit Chattanooga, which is a key website. But even like the Tivoli or, some of the other ones are way on the other page, or you have to search specific for that music venue for it to come up. So major kudos. I did not run that search for arts organizations or venues before this, so this was very ad hoc to see that. So yeah, super congratulations to Arts Build. I don't know if there's other searches that might be relevant for this group, but things to do in Chattanooga, Tennessee. Obviously, I'm pretty sure Rock City and the aquarium in Ruby Falls pay for paid advertising, so that's oh really, Marcia, that's amazing. I'm curious what it'll do for me. That's on it. Awesome. But yeah, if you pay for paid advertising, you're going to be at the top of any list. But your paid advertising, when you go into it and set it up in Google, you also have to be thinking of, it makes you put keywords. So you have to be thinking of all the different types of searches and words that someone would search in Google that would bring up your organization. So it takes a lot of thought in order to set up Google advertising, more so than a social media advertising campaign, because you really have to sit and think about, what are people going to search? Well, how do I want to be found? I'm really curious. I want to do this poetry organizations. That's amazing. That's awesome. So that means you're constantly updating your website. You have put in keywords in your throughout the content of your website that shows that that's how you should be found. So amazing work. Really amazing work. That's super cool. It also means that you've probably got, all your links are right. It's, optimized for all the screens. You're like I said, updating your content. So it's really important to do that. One thing I will say, I just noticed, yeah, it needs to get some work on getting some reviews. It doesn't look like, is it Rhyme and Chat, that Marcia's organization, Marcia's business? Okay. It looks like you got to claim your Google My Business. So not to put you on the spot or anything, but yeah, it says own this business. So that means it's not claimed. So you should take the time to do that. And how that works really is you will put, you'll put a address in there for where it is, where you are. And Google will send you a postcard in the mail to that address, to which you will confirm that it is you and that is the correct address. And then you mail that back and then it's yours. And once you do that, like I said, reply to reviews. It makes you seem human. Yeah, and make sure everything's connected. Make sure it's connected to your website. Make sure, I don't know if you have a Facebook and Instagram or whatever it is, social media that you've chosen to do, but make sure everything like that is linked on your website appropriately. But that's a little bit about Google advertising and why it can be worthwhile. But even just to do Google advertising isn't enough. You need all the things set up in the back. So it's not It's not just one-stop shop, like pay for Google ads and you're good to go and you'll be at the top. They're not going to put you at the top of any Google advertising list unless your website is like is constantly updating content. It's all correct. There are no broken links. There are no broken photos that won't load. So it's, yeah, not just one, but the whole thing. And also, you'll come up even more, Marsha, when you claim your Google My Business. So definitely do that.
And Colleen, to go back to one of your previous talks, you definitely need to respond to all the reviews, even the bad ones.
Even the bad ones.
Yeah. But approach them as diplomatically as possible, despite whatever tone may be coming from those. I think Colleen covered there was a business in Chattanooga that any negative reviews, they just delete them.
Oh yeah, you can't do that. I mean, I would. Okay, so there's I did talk about caveats to that, right? Like, on Facebook or social media or even Google, if it's wildly profane and horrible, I think where there's a line that we all should have with regard to what we're gonna put up with and on social media. Facebook has you can report people for things like that. They delete those. I feel confident in saying that. However, if it's just a negative review, like Amy is saying, you can't just decide it doesn't exist. The best way to do that is just like treating, constructive criticism in real life, face to face or Zoom to Zoom at this point in our lives. You just have to address it and be kind. And it's entirely possible you might turn that person into a customer that comes back, or someone who really respects you and your brand because you took the time. So definitely always reply to reviews.
We did there was a question that came to me directly that asked about old reviews, like if they had some really old reviews that might not have been 100% positive, do they need to respond to those? I feel like for, I guess, what's the word I'm trying to say? In terms of timeliness, if it was 2 years ago and you didn't respond to it, I say, we just move on. But if it was probably within the last 3 months, 6 months, if it's still hanging out there, we probably need to respond to it.
Yeah, it also matters how many there have been since then, right? So if that one's still like towards the top of your reviews because there hasn't been many since that point in time, it might be worth it. I'm curious what the organization or business is done that you're asking about too, because that might change my opinion.
Oh yeah, and it wasn't necessarily a bad review. I just have never we don't have many of them at all, and so I was just wondering, should I go back and you just so that there is a response to all the reviews, do that now, or if they're old, just let them go?
Yeah, is it Google or Facebook?
Yeah, Google. I mean,
Okay.
I've just honestly never looked at our Google reviews, so yeah. I'm finding all your information helpful. I pulled up our our business page, and yeah.
Yeah, it's an easy one to forget because Google doesn't necessarily feel like an interactive place. But depending on what your organization is, if someone like me is deciding to come into Chattanooga and I have the day off or whatever it is, and I need to find lunch or I need to find what activity is happening, you definitely want that updated. Just because I say this a lot in almost every webinar, it just makes you seem human instead of just like a digital personality. But I would say no if it's like super old, but if it is sitting at the top of your Google listing and there's not many between that, it might be worth it. And also it might create new people to review you if it shows you're now being active. So it depends on if it's worth your time. If you think it's worth your time, it could even just be a thank you, depending on what the review is. Like, thank you for your feedback, and you could just put that sort of on everyone with their name. Thank you for your feedback, comma, whatever their name was. Just to remind Google that you're active, and to remind and to show people who might be searching for your listing, or get served your listing, that you're active and you're out there. So it depends. It's up to you, but
Well, this is a good lesson. So from this point forward, I feel like everybody who's participating here will not only pay attention to the social media reviews that we can get through Facebook, but also the Google reviews, because I personally have used them for small businesses before, especially like places to get my hair cut, things like that. And while I know that those businesses aren't identical to our organizations, there is still an element to that. In proving that how serious we are about the work that we do.
Yeah. See, I mean, even I'm putting y'all on the spot, that is because we're here for doing work for Arts Build. You have a lot, and sometimes once you get more reviews too, it sometimes doesn't matter. They won't put them in chronological order. Like, there's a 2 years ago in place of a 5 years ago. So it is still worth probably just to even put a thank you. At this point in life too, you can just answer with a bunch of emojis, like a fire emoji like this guy, or like Mia Treadwell with the review. You don't have to do too much. So don't overthink it. Don't write long paragraphs unless it requires it, but you can just, put a thumbs up, or thanks for your review, super short. So yeah, I definitely would say that I prioritize responding with words to a review that took the time to say words. You know what I mean? So these few that have a sentence in them and someone took the time, because time is valuable, and we don't always take a moment to type things out in a manner in which others can read it. Some people just do the stars, and to me the stars solicit a thumbs up. But the individuals that took the time to write a sentence or say something could, I think, get a thank you with an emoji or something.
Or even a thumbs up. Can Artsfield go back and just click that like? Yeah.
Or when you're on there, as your business, if someone's logged into the you have to be logged into the Google email that is attached to your Google My Business. So that's the other thing. Things get complicated just because you got to keep track of all your emails and logins. The person who has that login to your Google My Business email account that's attached to it can go in and just easily, and it will say Arts Build likes this. But I would say that these individuals that took the time to write something, I would write something back, even if it's thank you, comma, first name. I have a request in my email inbox from an individual asking about doing a talk for how do you convert online users into actual donations or people that help support your organization. And this is one of the key ways that people tend to forget that this is how you do that, right? It's so small and it's so easy to forget. But if someone took the time out of their day to write you a review, you should respond to it, because you are then creating a relationship by which they feel invested, because you are showing that you are invested in their investment. You know what I mean? So it's just a circle. But then they might go on artsbuild.com and say, this organization really has got it together. They're responsive. They've got great programming. I'm going to give $20. And that it could be as easy as that you're creating this personal relationship with an individual just by doing this, because in today's world, responding to someone on social media feels like getting a letter in the mail how in the old days, you know what I mean? So like it's this level, this is where we're at in 2022 for personal relationships, is responding to each other on social media, on Google. So think of it that way. Think of it as, it could be a metric, like we got this many reviews this month and we responded to this many reviews, and you might see this name later on in a fundraising campaign if that's a thing that you need to do. So just think of it that way. And it's super simple, and it takes 5 minutes to make sure that you're on and replying to reviews. It also helps you in this Google algorithm get up in the rankings. Everything that you do on Google that shows that you're an active human being behind the paywall of and metadata of Google just helps get your website up in the rankings, get you on that list for when someone does a search of what to do that night or weekend or whatever. So yeah, I don't know if there's further questions about that. I could go all day.
Yeah, we've got a good mix of organizations represented here. So, like I said in the beginning, folks, just chime in with your questions.
Yeah.
Anything we need to talk about that Colline has covered, maybe has made you think of other social media concepts that you wanted to explore and maybe ask her about.
Yeah, because I could talk all day about, why you should do these things or how to do these things, but those webinars exist. And so it's still a small group. So I'm happy to answer any very specific questions. You never know, someone might have the same. Yeah.
Jonathan, you got something?
Yes. I just wanted to learn more about the screen optimization. As far as what needs to be done whenever you're putting your website on Google, and people might have issues with maybe seeing your content or whatever issue might come up with relating to screen optimization. Are there any small tips, Trey? You might have gone over that some, but I guess if we have time to elaborate more on that.
Yeah. So first, it depends on what you're using to build your website. Most websites now are super helpful in, I built a few very recently, one for the Hamilton County Sheriff's Office in Squarespace. And in Squarespace, you'll see, and a lot of others. Yes, great question. Thank you, Jonathan. I apologize for I'm just excited to answer the question. You'll see you can view it as you're building it in a giant desktop, a smaller computer screen, and then your phone screen. The only thing I'll say is sometimes those options really they translate well, but a lot of options don't translate well to your phone. This is so much smaller than even the smallest laptop screen, right? So it's just worth it to build your website in a way and then open it on your small screens to make sure that it's actually readable. I think the settings in website building software tries really hard to make it easy, but you just have to think websites don't need to be this crazy slew of photos and information. But if you think of it in terms of stacking, so the way I try to build website is I try to only have 2 columns per page. As far as so that, so when you open it on your phone, it's not so, when you open on your phone and you have multiple like things, multiple columns when you're building a website, it will turn that into horizontal. So like that first column you'll go through it first. And if you're meant to read, you know, left to right on a website, it won't do that on your small screen. So you just have to build it in a way that's like, I don't even sometimes like doing two columns in a website. I just like using, you know, just a flat single space and moving down it. You know, less information is better, more concise information, a good menu, following that menu, right? So, you know, if you have an about page, making sure that people, even on small screens, if you have an about page, you are linking to the different sections so that when you bring it up on your small screen, it's like, maybe, for example, Arts Build is always coming to my mind during these, but the about section, and then it's like meet my staff, our mission, make sure that those are not just pieces on the website, but they are also menu items, so that when you go on your small screen, you have that ability to jump right to a section that you're interested in and not have to scroll all the way through to get to it. Because I mean, our attention spans are very short now. So if I have to like, if it's not a menu item that I can't jump right to, I'm going to give up like part of the way through, you know? So make your menu items full. You know, on the Hamilton County website I recently built, it seems like a lot, and it was very annoying because you have to then make sure all the links are working. But it's worthwhile to say like about, and then under about, you can click meet our staff. What's our mission? What's our vision? What are our values? How to get in touch with us if that's part of it. But make sure those menu items are really full, and linked to the different spots. That'll make everything so much easier when you move between screens. I don't know if that answers, I feel like that answers the question.
No, that was perfect. Thank you so much.
Yeah, it seems like a lot, and links can get broken pretty easily that way when you create so many, but it's worth it. If, like, I know that I would say 75% of the time I search websites and stuff on my phone just to test that. And also because we're constantly on the go. Like, I don't carry my that's a lie, I carry my laptop everywhere, but I'm not going to go for it in the car before I go for my phone. So yeah, just use those menu items and make links to all the pieces of the page, and make them just flat single things, not with like, you know, several things side by side.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So good organization is key,
Yeah.
and not overwhelming your audience with information.
Yeah. Or, you know, if it has to have a lot of information, like your newsletters have so much information in them, making it easy to find where to go, because not everyone wants to read the whole thing. Like, not everyone wants to read your whole website. They might just be going there to find what shared services are coming up, or how to get involved, or what event you're hosting. You know what I mean? You got to make it easy for them to find that. So it's very intuitive. When you build a website, you should think about how you search for websites and what you're looking for, and what that, you know, all the different pieces that someone might be interested in. Like, sometimes I don't know what's going on with my email, but I can't find Amy's email address in my inbox. And so I go to meet our staff and go find Amy and pull her email out of that. So that makes it super easy and intuitive. Marcia says in the chat that it was helpful to draw my site out on paper first. Definitely. Making an outline is great. And then drawing it out is awesome. I do the same thing with almost everything in my house and website design. It's so much easier to see, you know, like about page should have this section, this section, this section, that section, and then that helps you build your menu a lot easier as well.
In that regard, I'm not gonna. This will be my last question, and I'll promise I'll let everybody else ask questions. But in advocating for our burgeoning artists in the community, so Marcia and I put on our Tech Goes Home course for Arts Build. And our main project for Tech Goes Home is for our artists to build their own Google site. So using Google site in Drive. Is there any difference in the interaction of a Google site or a site that was built in Google or through Google Drive versus something that was made on another website platform? This is just really great information for us to be able to share with the participants of our upcoming class. Because like I said, this is going to be a project of theirs. Oh yeah, like WordPress. Marcia mentioned Google Sites versus WordPress and how those interact with the overall google.com and the reviews and things like that. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. I've built one website on Google Sites in my lifetime just because everything with Google, everything with Google Sheets, Google Slides, Google Sites, it all has a limited capability. That's why they allow you to download all those plugins to make, things more integrated, more options. And so I think my answer will be that if they're new to running a website or building a website and they don't have, WordPress does have free options, and they're great. Also a little bit of a limited capability of what you can do. Everything else you sort of kind of have to pay for. And so if this is their first time building a website, I think Google Sites is great. They make building it very easy. There are so many tutorials to read, or you literally can Google your issues to figure out something from Google. So they just have so much information for people that are new to building websites, that will make it really easy and intuitive. It's a great way to learn. And the fact that it's on Google, makes it super easy to keep organized with Google Drive. It makes it easy. Once you're logged into Google, I use Google Drive for almost everything. You can keep track of things easily that way. It's a really great place to start. It really is. It just has limited capabilities. But the thing that I preach every time we talk about websites is it doesn't have to be like this huge fancy website with all the, moving graphics and this, that, and the other that some, organizations that are big national organizations have. It just has to exist. It has to be updated, and it has to have correct information. A bit of it needs to be human. It needs to show you. It needs to feel personal. And so I think it's a great place to start.
And there's a lot of I agree. I like all the integration with all of the other Google Drive components, because we've had some great portfolio websites that have come from our Tech Goes Home classes, from both the adult version and our high school version. And it was actually our high school version that students were learning how to incorporate Google Slides and then also Google Forms to capture data. So that's just something to think about for any of our artists who are on today looking to, try and make their art form into a career. Google Sites is a great place to start.
Yeah, it really is. It really is a great place to start because it's all integrated. You create the one email, address that, is attached to your Google Drive where you can keep everything organized. When you're building the website, you can pull right from that Google Drive instead of I have things everywhere. I'm an organized person, but not being in Google Drive means that I have to take, or not being on Google Sites means I have to take a few extra steps in order to build websites. But I personally would like a little bit more capability to do things. But I think it's a great, you're making me think that I need my portfolio website on Google. It might make my life a little bit easier. You still do have to, if you don't want .wordpress.com or .google sites, you still have to pay for a URL, but those are, once you buy it, it's like it's yours for life. So that sometimes it's 10, 20, 15, whatever dollars. So that's worth it to pay for if you're going to pay for anything. But a lot of the rest of this can be free and done really well. And, it's a great place to start. It really is. I often forget about Google Sites, and it's just because I've learned all the other ones. And when you type in like how to build a website, what's funny is I don't even think it comes up. Google Sites like doesn't come up on a Google search about it. So I don't know why, but it is what it is.
Google needs to work on its own reviews.
I think maybe they get more money.
So do we have any questions? Oh, go ahead, Colleen, sorry.
The other great thing about setting up a Google site, which is the one that I have built, was very purposeful because I wanted to test the theory of making money off of Google, putting ads up on your Google website. So it's like super easy to press like, you may advertise on my website, like the ads for whatever ad is following the person visiting your website, sneakers or something, I don't know. So it's really easy to also on Google sites make money. And by make money, I mean like cents on the dollar sometimes. If someone's visiting your website and they actually click an ad that Google wants to run on your website that's completely unrelated to your website. But that is an easy integration with this, which is kind of interesting. So you could make 10 cents every day just by letting Google run ads on your website. And this is the easiest way to do that versus like putting that in, uploading that integration software onto your WordPress or Squarespace. I've tried it. This is the easiest way, but that's just a small tidbit to, if it says you can advertise on our website on Google sites when your students are building that, just tell them to click yes, because like, why not? 10 cents a day into their bank account is more than zero.
So with that, do we have any comments or questions or cries of disbelief that you'd like to share with us today?
Yeah, does anyone have anything going on or questions on the social medias?
Talk to us. Let us know you're engaged.
Does everyone have social media? That's a good question. Good place to start. Does everyone have a Facebook?
Yeah, and this is Marcia. I have a question.
Sure.
So if, for example, I do all types of events for poetry shows, and I find myself creating a Facebook event and then sharing it to my Facebook page, and also creating an Instagram post. Is there any way to like create something in an interface one time and it shares across whatever social media platform you have?
Yes and no. So we talked about this a few times because we all want it to be a little bit easier, I definitely feel that. Facebook has the ability to, if your Facebook and your Instagram are connected, which hopefully they are, your Facebook page for the business or the organization and your Instagram are connected, And if your Instagram isn't a business Instagram, you might want to switch that for those purposes. It's like an option when you go in your about page to switch to a business Instagram. So Facebook does have the ability to like create cross posting. I don't love it. And I don't love a lot of the tools that do it, just because they are owned by the same company, but they're two different platforms. And I don't feel like the cross posting actually looks good when it's transferable. I think when you start on Facebook, something for Facebook looks very different than what it translates to on Instagram. So
True.
unfortunately, I don't suggest it. I know it's like really annoying, but I would suggest more if it's really important to you and you find yourself wasting a lot of time, or you would just like to be more efficient in using like a buffer that allows you to set times for things to post, allows you to create ahead of time and schedule is what I meant to say. But using an outside tool to do that. But unfortunately, I think you'll always have to create two separate posts. I know. But you're then making sure that those posts are optimized for those platforms, which looks really good. It looks really good. It looks clean. You know, like Instagram, you're supposed to use more hashtags than you would on Facebook. And so there's just difference between the platforms. And it'll be worth it because there's that personal touch, and it won't be so obvious that it's like a cross-posted post that didn't cross-post like well. You know what I mean?
We should create something.
Yeah, it's frustrating.
we should create something, because I spent a lot of time creating like the Eventbrite site, the header for the Eventbrite site, and then a different header for my Facebook event because they're kind of shaped differently and cropped differently. And then I have to do something totally different for Instagram.
Yep.
So yeah, it's a lot.
That's why social media. That's why digital media people get paid the big bucks, though, because they have to spend their time creating all of these different things. I get it. I hate it.
It's a lot. It's a lot.
That.
It's a lot.
Yeah, but it's worth it.
I found that Canva, however you say it, has been really helpful in that respect, because it will automatically convert something that you have to a different size, and then you can make pretty quick adjustments to make it look better, but it keeps that same consistent look for all those different platforms.
Yeah, and I build my webinar slides in Canva. I have a pro version because I use it for like everything. And so I don't know, maybe you know, the pro version lets me do that. But
yeah, you get it for free if you're a nonprofit.
Oh, right. That's great.
Yep.
There you
pro
go.
Version.
Canva, sign up for pro version.
Didn't know that.
You're a nonprofit. Yeah, you can. Yes, you can convert on Canva the different sizes and then make edits, because sometimes it still doesn't, translate well, but at least, all your colors and I have palettes built in Canva. I don't know if you do that as well, but like my color palettes to make it super easy, and my font palettes to say that this is my brand. But unfortunately, you do have to write different content, and different your steps exist. There's steps that you said to post about an event are unfortunately the steps.
That's it.
Colleen, I think you just found the topic for your next shared services workshop. A deep dive into Canva.
I love Canva. Love. So all right, I will.
Let's definitely plan on that.
Okay. the good news is though, like once, I don't know if you feel this way, but once you do your Eventbrite, because Eventbrite requires so much information, like it requires the whole about the thing, and it makes you make a header photo and tells you, put in the times. That should help you,
Kind of
translate.
copy and paste.
Yeah, copy and pasting. And hopefully the Canva tip will help you with the visuals, creating those. Because I do know, I mean, like Eventbrite's header photo is a completely different size than the Facebook event photo, and they don't transfer well when you do it. And so I've learned a lesson many times that you can't just download one and try to figure it
Because
out.
it crops
just
it
doesn't
off.
work. Yeah. And then, I think sometimes an Instagram square can be used on Facebook, but Facebook's preferred size in a traditional sharing social media post is not a square. It's like this, a big old weird rectangle. But same with algorithms in Google that help you get placed at the top. If you follow their rules for all of these things, especially images, you'll get put in their algorithm higher, because it means that there was a human behind it that took the time to make sure that you're playing by their social media rules, however frustrating. That's just a reality of it. But
I
yeah.
found that I actually schedule myself about an hour each evening after I get home from my job to spend on my website, on my social media platforms, to make sure that I'm responding to things, to make sure that I'm updating things, and to try to keep things kind of consistent as I have, writing workshops coming up and events coming up, to try to make sure that everywhere that people would go, that they will find what we've got going on.
Well, that's
it's
really
a lot.
amazing. It is a lot. It's a lot of work. Like I said, that's why there's people who get paid full time to do that work. So kudos to you, major kudos, because one of the slides in my deck that I always put in is like, make sure your branding is consistent across all platforms, so that if someone goes to your website to look, or goes to your Eventbrite or your Instagram or your Facebook, because not everyone goes to all three or all four, make sure that all looks the same, so that if they do, it looks the same and they can identify your brand over time. So if you put in the work like that, and you're patient and consistent, it really will pay off. It really will. But yeah, that's, man. Yeah, that's great. That's really great. You should probably create a Google site for your portfolio if you ever want to take on some side work. I'm sure someone would pay you for your efforts, because do you also remember that that's you've created all of those assets, and that's a real resume builder. So don't think of it as just one-off, and forget about it. Those are all things you have created, and are now your work product. So that's really amazing. Cool. Very cool. I know it's a lot of work. That's why I only take on a few extra clients at a time, because it takes so much time to make sure everything's right. I had a friend recently tell me they were going to run for elected office, and I was like, oh dear Lord, all of the things that's a whole full-time job, to do all that. So cool. Very cool. Any other specialized questions? Because we have 5 minutes left. More specific questions.
And if for some reason, after this, oh, sorry.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, this is TJ Henretta. I would like you to speak a little bit to cross promotion, like for us to promote each other. I know that there are tools within some of the social media, like for sharing things, or I don't even know how to use hashtags and stuff. So anything you can help with that would be absolutely wonderful. Thank you.
Yeah. So, I mean, you all are on a team together in some sort of fashion, being members of Arts Build and attending these. And so, one thing I always like begged for when I worked for the Chattanooga Public Works Department as their public relations person, was when we were involved in any other city, departments work or an event or even not just the city, but like we were part of associations of public works of Tennessee or national associations, to always ask to tag each other and share information because for example, the fire department city would host these giant events where they would bring out the different trucks for kids to hang out on and check out, and public works would join the fire department and the police department, but we wouldn't always get tagged in the photos. And so I begged to be tagged in those photos if we were there at that event, because first of all, the police department and the fire department have so many more followers than the public works department does, but we're both there. And so anytime, like James just put in the chat, anytime you can include someone else, if they're at your event, make sure that they're a co-host on your Facebook event, because you're then allowed, and if something's relevant to share, or maybe once a month, this group gets together and shares some post, like check out this artist, check out this venue, the symphony has a really cool thing coming up. Anytime you can do that, they'll do it back for you, hopefully, and you get shown to a wider audience that may not follow your page. So anytime that you can do that for others and others will do that for you, you are opening yourself up to someone who may not know you have a Facebook page, and they'll click follow. And it's as easy as that, you know what I mean? Because then they'll be served your posts over time. So yeah, first of all, take advantage of the fact that Arts Build has worked really hard over the last few years to really build up their following on Facebook and Instagram, but especially Facebook for events. So if you're joined in on one of their events, definitely do that. Ask to make a co-host on those events. But yeah, get into the habit of sharing each other's content, even if it's once a month. It doesn't hurt you. It actually helps. It helps. Someone who's following Marsha's page might want to follow your page, but they don't know it exists, because that's not how Facebook works. Unless you're running paid advertising on social media to tell people that you exist, they won't know unless someone tells them you're there. So take advantage of that, being co-hosts of Arts Build events.
And also, Catherine is our main social media priestess at Arts Build, so she helps to manage most of that for us. And I know, I've been in conversations with her and outside arts entities who want us to co-host and to share their information. I think most recently it was WTCI had something that they wanted us to stream for them on our Facebook page. So that's just a quick email to Catherine, and Catherine's on here. So, or she was. So I'm going to put her email address in the chat. And if you ever have anything that you would like us to cross promote for, you can do that. But as James said, do make Arts Build a co-host of your events on Facebook, so that we can help you as well. And if you go to our Facebook page, you'll see exactly what we're talking about, what we've done with organizations in the past. So, yeah. Well,
oh, sorry.
No, you're fine.
Of not having a business Facebook and working on that and creating, the portfolio type website. And so this this event on Facebook today isn't like co-hosted by me, and I'm missing out on that opportunity. So don't be like me in that regard. And
Yeah, I know. I just learned that, so I need to make you a co-host the next time when we do our deep dive into Canva. So, well, y'all, we are right at time. So thank you all for being here today. We learned quite a bit from Colline. Just to reiterate, Facebook and Instagram are the best social media platforms, I believe, for our arts and culture organizations. Cross promotion is very, very important. Thank you, TJ, for reiterating that. And Dawn, thank you for giving us the idea of diving into Canva for our next talk. So feel free to reach out to Colline if any questions pop up after this, which I'm sure they will. So Colline, will you throw your email address in the chat for us? But with that, I wish everybody a great week. Stay healthy and stay safe.
yeah.
Bye, guys.
Bye, everybody.